I now call to order the January 21st, 2019 meeting of the New Caney Independent School District Board of Trustees at 6:30. Let the minutes show that a quorum is present with all members in attendance. Please rise for the invocation given by Ms. Harrell and remaining for the pledge of allegiance in the honor of the Texas flag, led by Ms. Sharp.
Please bow. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with grateful hearts. We thank you for our country. We thank you for our state and our school district. Our community has supported us, and for that we thank you. We ask for you to give us wisdom and continued discernment as we make decisions tonight and every day that would affect the lives of so many. Thank you for the children and the educators and staff here in our district, and we ask a special blessing upon our first responders and on our military and their families who fight to keep us safe. We ask that you continue to bless our country and lead us back to you. Forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Up next is recognitions. We're going to start off with Mr. Kerry Hamilton. He's going to start off with us at Dogwood Elementary.
First of all, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to recognize my staff and students this evening. It's always a pleasure to do this. I have lots and lots of folks that I can have here with me tonight, and again, I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm going to start tonight first with Ms. Tiffany Robertson. She is a 5th grade teacher on the campus. She's at the Board District for a number of years, 2 years as a certified teacher. She came through the Texas Tech program that we have a partnership with, and is a fantastic teacher. She works tirelessly, working for the benefit and well-being of the children. She requires excellence in education for herself and the children. She's also one of our teacher leaders on the campus as part of our Leader in Me program. She leads one of our action teams for events and activities that we have on the campus as well. She always sees the best in every child and the best of the possibilities in each and every one. And we are honored to have her on our campus. That's awesome. Next, I would like to recognize Cecilia Garcia. She's one of our custodians. She's been with the district since 2002. She's worked both at Dogwood and previously at Soares Mill. She quietly goes about her business without fanfare or distraction, always seeking to excel. Ms. Garcia is one of those individuals who does not recognize, but who does not gain recognition but gain satisfaction in a job well done. We are pleased to have her on the Dogwood staff and honor her here today. Next I have Sylvia Valencia. Ms. Valencia is a highly motivated and hardworking member of our child nutrition staff. She's been with the nutrition department for 12 years and has perfect attendance. She is always positive and friendly, welcoming the students on a daily basis. She's a valued member of the child nutrition staff at Dogwood, and we love having her on the campus. Next, I'd like to recognize Ms. Jennifer Foster. She is the school secretary for Dogwood, and she's been with us through the whole process of before we opened up, all the ordering, the receiving, all that good stuff, going through all the opening and growth plans that we've had with her. As you know, with every secretary, she is the heart of a campus. If she's not there, things don't get done and it doesn't run quite as detailed as we'd like. She's very detail-oriented. She handles pressure and tension with grace and precision. And we're extremely happy to have her as a member of our team. And finally, I'd like to recognize Christian Gomez. Christian is one of those individuals who shows limitless support and encouragement of others. He not only makes good choices for himself, but helps others make good choices as well. He treats each and every individual with kindness and respect. He is responsible and influences classmates to do the same. Christian is an honor roll student who works tirelessly to earn his grades. Always positive and prepared, he strives towards excellence and inspires his classmates to grow and succeed as well. Christian's heartfelt leadership and actions have earned him his peers' trust and his teachers' respect and admiration. Christian is a 5th grade student at Dogwood Elementary.
Up next, Ms. Nicole Jones from Valley Ranch.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to stand before you all, just like Mr. Hamilton said, and just recognize a few of the elite on our campus and in our school district. Unfortunately, our student could not be here this evening, but I'd like to go ahead and read some things about our 5th grade student, Joshua Bissler. He is a hard worker, dependable, and always happy. Not only is he an honor roll student, but he is respectful and polite to his classmates. He is always ready to lend a helping hand. And just on a personal note, in the morning when I'm greeting the kids, he's one of those kids that speaks to me first, and that says a lot about his parents and the kind of character that this student has. So I'd like to in his absence, recognize Joshua Bissler. Next, I have Miss Tooley. She wears many hats on our campus, selflessly going over and beyond for our students and staff. Kathy is our campus media specialist and also our campus testing coordinator. She is always assisting teachers with the implementation of new and innovative ways to help our students learn the content. And for that, I'd like to recognize Ms. Kathy Tooley. Next, this is Ms. Susan Smith. She is the glue that holds our campus together. She organizes staff and student events on campus throughout the school year, from our color run to the 12 days of Christmas. She is always organizing events that uplift our staff, students, and community. She is my right-hand woman, and I couldn't lead our campus without her. Thank you, Susan, for all that you do. Next, we have Miss Rosalia Rico. Miss Rosalia is constantly bringing smiles to the faces of our students. She is very sweet to our kiddos with comments like, "Good morning," and "Enjoy your lunch." She knows just what to say to make their day. She always has a positive attitude and enjoys doing her job. Thank you, Miss Rosalia, for representing our child nutrition department. And last, but certainly not least, we have Miss Tomasa Lopez. She helps to keep our school beautiful and clean. She always shares treats with our staff, like tangerines from the other week and her homemade tamales. Miss Lopez works very hard during lunch duty to ensure that our students are eating in a clean environment. Thank you, Miss Tomasa, for always going over and beyond. Thank you.
Up next is Ms. Sherry Lowe from Tavola Elementary.
Okay, so it's hard for me when I think about Tavola to pick out just one person because I feel like what really makes us great are the teams that we have in place, but I did. So I want to start with Miss Kayla Thompson. She is one of our cafeteria workers. She absolutely knows every single student's name. She is there in the morning, afternoon, smiles. She goes out of her way to make sure kids have what they need and that they feel welcome in the cafeteria line. In addition to that, she's also a staple in our front office because she volunteers every afternoon passing out our transportation slips. And you can't function unless you know how every kid goes home. And so she knows where the teachers are, and she's just an integral part of our team in every way. And she does it with kindness, and she's just a staple in the cafeteria and our school. And thank you for what you bring to our kids, Ms. Thompson. From our custodial staff, Ms. Edith Velasquez. I wanted to recognize her today because there's no job too big or too small for her. She is willing to do anything at any time. Anytime the map is being reworked on who's going to be where, all the teachers are like, I need Miss Edith. Let her come to me. She works so hard, no complaining, and she just goes above and beyond in all that she does, and we are so grateful to her. Quiero dar gracias por todo lo que hagas porque eres una trabajadora bien dedicada y por eso quiero dar gracias de nuestra escuela. Ms. Terry Burleson, she is who I'm recognizing from our paraprofessional staff. She is a gem in our school. We've kind of restructured what we've done with our paras in the last couple of years. And when I walk in a classroom where she's at, I couldn't tell you who the teacher is and who the para is. She is hands-on. A lot of the material she plans herself, and it is exactly what the kids need. And the growth that some of our students have made this year is directly related to what she does with them every day. And I'm so grateful to her, and our teachers are, and our kids are. Thank you. Mrs. Melissa Poole. She is the teacher that I chose to recognize, and I wanted to read just a little bit of this because I really feel like it exemplifies who she is. When you read about exceptional teachers and you think about the things, the qualities that they have, you know that the lessons are important, but the relationships are essential. And passionate teachers don't just inspire their students, they inspire their colleagues. And they have the potential to impact the culture of the entire school, and I believe that really is who Mrs. Poole is. She impacts not just the kids, but who we stand for as Tavola. And so, for that reason, I wanted to recognize Mrs. Poole. We are also missing our little one, and I'm super excited because she is a little kindergarten student. Kinley Tudor is her name. And she has a stomach bug, so she was unable to be here. But when I thought about who I would bring, as a principal, you think about what do you want your students to represent as they come through your school. And then in walks Kinley Tudor in the fall in kindergarten, and she already had every single quality that you could ever hope for in a student. Joyous, laughter all the time, loving, accepting of every single student in the classroom. And I haven't met a kid more excited to learn than her. And so I'm super excited to recognize her. I will be recognizing her later this week so her parents can see it. So we're excited to recognize Kinley Tudor.
Finally, in recognitions, Ms. Erica Gruber will present a presentation for the school board recognition.
Good evening. Each month you get to hear us share our joy, and now it's our turn to celebrate you. On behalf of all the principals, staff, and the students in our community, we want to recognize you for your service to New Caney ISD. We know that you make many personal sacrifices throughout the year to serve on the board and ensure that our school community needs are being met each and every day. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support and allowing us to serve as instructional leaders and doing what's best for our kids so that they can be successful. You make sure that it is always the ultimate goal in New Caney for our students to be successful, and we thank you for that. Tonight we want to show our appreciation by gifting you with this wonderful basket of swag, as well as a photo book with some of the great events that have taken place already this school year. And once again, thank you for everything you do for us here in New Caney.
We appreciate all of you guys do for us too. And as you see in these recognitions, it's important to understand we have a wonderful administration, wonderful teachers, but there's a lot of other people that change kids' lives that are not in the teaching or the management role. So we have 1,800 or better employees that get up every day to make our kids' lives better. And we appreciate all that they do. That's why we continue to do our recognitions. So it's very important for us. Up next, item 3 is on the agenda is the consideration 2017-2018 annual audit report presented by Mr. Greg Peterson.
Thank you, members of the board. My name is Greg Peterson. I'm the senior manager on the engagement, and it is my pleasure to present the annual financial report for the Caney ISD as of August 31st, 2018. Before I get into it, I just want to thank Brandy and her team. It takes a lot of work to get through an audit, and we definitely couldn't do it without them. We have a very top-notch team, very knowledgeable, and I can't say enough good things about them. So tonight, I believe y'all have this in electronic version. I would like to start off, I'm just going to go by the actual page number of the report. It shows up on your electronic copy. But we're actually going to start off on page 95 of the report. So this is the summary of our audit results. As part of our audit, we issued an opinion on the financial statements, but we also issued an opinion over your financial awards. So this sheet right here breaks down the two different opinions that we issued. So over the financial statements, we have issued an unmodified opinion, and that is the highest level of assurance that you can receive in an audit. An unmodified opinion basically says that all the information contained, all the numbers contained in this financial statement are materially correct. We also test your internal controls over certain areas like cash disbursements, payroll, bidding, and during that process, we identified no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies. And we also noted no non-compliance with any state or federal requirements. Then next, we issued an opinion over the federal awards. Again, we issued an unmodified opinion over your financial awards. We also test controls over compliance with your federal awards. During that testing, we identified no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no other matters that would be required to be disclosed. And during our testing, we tested the Title I Part A program and the Hurricane Recovery Grant. If you just turn the page to 97, you'll actually see the schedule of federal expenditures of all the federal awards. You had total federal expenditures of $13.9 million, which is a $2.5 million increase over prior year. That's primarily related to the hurricane grant, and then you had an increase in your child nutrition program. Next, we'll turn to page 18. So as part of governmental accounting, we issued 2 opinions, but we also issued 2 different sets of reports. So on page 18, we're going to go over the fund level financial statements. So these are more like the operational level financial statements. And on page 18, we'll start with the general fund, and that is the primary operating fund of the district. So we will look at your total assets within the general fund of $41.6 million. which is primarily comprised of cash and investments. You have $33 million of cash and investments of your $41.6 million in total assets. You have $11 million in liabilities, primarily comprised of accounts payable and accrued wages payable. You have total fund balance of $28.4 million. Your unassigned fund balance, your unassigned category is $28.4 million, which represents a little over 2 months of general fund expenditures. So that's a pretty healthy fund balance, unassigned fund balance. Next is your debt service fund. So you have $5.8 million in assets in your debt service fund. 4.9 of that is cash and investments. You have $900,000 in liabilities. You have an ending fund balance of $4.1 million. Of course, this fund balance is restricted for debt service. Next is your capital project fund. This is the fund that's used to account for bond issues that are going to be used to build buildings, acquire buses, those sorts of things. You have $92 million of assets in your capital project fund. Again, that's all current investments. You have $9 million in payables, which are probably due to construction projects, contracts that are due. You have restricted fund balance of $83 million, again, which are all restricted for capital acquisition and contract obligations. Next, we'll turn to page 22. And these are your fund level income statements. So again, we'll talk about your general fund. You had total revenues of $141.8 million. That's primarily comprised of property taxes and state funding from your foundation program. You had $136.8 million of expenses. You had an increase in your fund balance of $5 million. So your fund balance in your general fund went from $23.4 million to $28.4 million. Next is your debt service with total revenues of $25.4 million. Again, primarily comprised of property taxes and state funding. You had current debt service expenditures of $26.7 million, principal and interest. You also issued to defease some bonds this year. I believe it was about $30 million, which is in this other financing sources and uses section, which netted $346,000. So you had a slight decrease in your fund balance and your debt service from $5 million to $4.1 million. Next is your capital project fund. Again, not a lot of revenues here, primarily just interest earned on those $92 million in investments. So you had $900,000 of revenue. You had $59.5 million of expenditures to be that was for buildings. You issued some debt during the current year, some building bonds of $60 million. So you actually had an increase in your capital project fund balance of $1.8 million, which brought you to $83 million in your capital project fund balance. The final column there is your other non-major funds. So this is the accumulation of all your state and federal programs. Again, this category is not meant to really have fund balance. You just break it even on your projects or your grant funds. So you had $19 million of revenue, $18.6 million of expenses, and $2.1 million is your ending fund balance. Next, we'll turn to page 16. So earlier I mentioned that we issued two separate types of financial statements, fund level financial statements, and now we're looking at your government bond financial statements. So this is a full accrual financial statements. This is probably what you're used to seeing in like a for-profit entity. So these sets of accounts include long-term assets, long-term liabilities. So the district has total assets of $532 million. 131 of that is cash and investments, and $390 million is in capital assets, land, building, furniture, equipment, construction in progress. You have total liabilities of $597 million, which is primarily comprised of bonds payable. You do have a pension liability of $29.6 million. And I do want to point out that there's a new liability being recorded this year, and this is due to the implementation of GASB 75. So this is a new accounting standard that requires all districts across the state to recognize the health care benefit plans for retirees. So this is not unique to New Caney ISD. All districts across the state had to record this liability. So this liability for the year ended was $49.7 million. And to really kind of talk about this, we also have to look over at page 17. As far as implementing this accounting standard, we had to go back and restate your beginning net position as if this liability had always been on the books. So that restatement was a decrease to your beginning fund balance of $87 million. So when you come down to this bottom section here and you're looking at your total net position and a deficit balance of $70 million, that is directly related to the implementation of this new accounting standard. So that is not, TBA will look at this and part of your first ratings or looking at your net position, they would have backed this number out because it's just an accounting standard. This $49 million liability is not current. The district is required to pay a contractual amount. All districts across the state are paid, have to pay a statutory amount into these plans. The district makes all the payments that they're required to make. Again, this is just an accounting adjustment for this $49 million. So if we look over at page 17, this is your statement of activities, basically your income statement. And the district had a positive change in that position of $16.2 million. So we had more revenues than we did expenditures of $16.2 million. Again, with the prior period restatement, our beginning net position was at a negative $86 million, but we actually ended the year at a negative $70 million, again, due to the implementation of this new accounting standard. Just in closing, I'd like to point out some information that is disclosed in the notes of the financial statements. So if you go to page 35, this is a detail that shows how that $131 million is being invested. $8 million roughly is just in cash deposits. Then you have $122 million in local investment pools. The next table I'd like to point out is on page 39. This is your changes in your long-term liabilities. So this actually details what comprises your long-term debt. So you can see that you have $461 million of general obligation bonds, $32 million in premiums, and then down at the bottom you have your pension and OPEB liability of approximately $70 million. Next on page 40, you have your debt maturity schedule. So you can see the payout that's due on your debt service, which your final payment is due 2050. And then the last schedule I'd like to talk about is on page 56. And this is your budget to actual schedule for your general fund. So you can see that your final budgeted revenues in the general fund were $139 million. You actually came in $2.7 million higher than that. You had $141 million in revenue. Your final budgeted expenditures for the general fund were $139.4 million. You came in below that at $136.8 million. So you had a total increase in fund balance related budget to actual of $5.3 million. The last thing I want to talk about is, I think y'all received a little loose letter. So as part of our accounting standards, we have to communicate with governments certain matters. So we talk about our responsibility as auditors in the financial statement audit, talk about our timing, our scope, say that we're in compliance with all ethical requirements. We discuss significant accounting estimates, any changes in policies, which obviously there was an implementation of GASB 75. We talk about any corrected misstatements, uncorrected misstatements, any disagreements with management, which there were none. So basically, this is just a letter communicating that we had no issues with the audit, management was ethical, and that we had no findings to report. So if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. It pretty much covers all the points I wanted
Any other further discussions or questions? Is there a motion to approve the 2017-2018 annual audit report? Motion has been moved and seconded. There being no further discussion, a vote will be taken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The measure carries. We're going to move up Miss Laura, which is going to be discussing high school number 3 planning. So that's in item number 6. We're going to move it up in front, so she doesn't have to sit here the entire evening. So Miss Laura is going to come up and discuss high school number 3 planning and updating.
All right, thank you very much, and good evening. I also have with me Parul Bias, who is our senior project manager on the project. So, giving an update on what we've been up to in regards to comprehensive high school number 3. Something unique and exciting that we've been able to do with this project is a collaboration with Texas A&M University and one of their graduate architecture studios there. What was really neat about this, they were looking for an opportunity to work with a real client in order to come up with a real solution. And so we introduced them to the project that we were doing out here, and they were excited about that. And I think there's a lot that we benefited from that. So we started talking to them in September. They actually came to our office and got to sit down with us and with Mr. Franklin, Mr. Calvert, and Ms. Marable, and hear about the project, hear about what was important to the school district, and then hear from the Stantec team on some of the things that we do when we're approaching educational projects. They actually went out to the site, so they did their project with your actual site, with your actual program. And they also walked Infinity, got to speak to some of the teachers and students there, and got a feel for the way that you guys work in the district. They had a midterm review, and then it all kind of culminated at the end with a final review that we actually did in the administration building here. They got to present the projects to us, the Stantec team, as well as members of the administration from Caney, and got to get some real feedback. So what was really exciting, they got to have a real client. From our side, we got to sit down and hear the thoughts of students who had been in high school more recently than we had. And also, they got to explore ideas without budget, without restraints of any kind, right? And so, a lot of the things that they pulled out, we couldn't actually do in the real world. But it's nice to be able to think outside the box. That's where you get some real creative ideas. And so I think there's a big benefit there.
So to tell you a little bit about the student group that was part of this team, there were 8 students. 4 of them were local Texans, and 4 of them were international from different parts of the world. 2 from China, 1 from Korea, and 1 from India. And the professor himself was from China. So they brought very different ideologies, like international thoughts, ideas to the table. And I remember one of the meetings we told them that you don't have to be bogged down by rules and regulations. If your building wants to defy gravity, go for it. But interestingly, both the teams, they split up into 2 teams of 4, and both the teams approached very professionally, and both their designs, they wanted to approach it like how we would as a real client. So the first team, their concept was more immersion in nature. And the studio at A&M that we collaborated with was their healthcare facility studio. So they wanted to approach this project in terms of health and mental well-being and how the building could be a well building. So the first team was kind of trying to bring the kids to immerse in the nature, bring them outside. The circulation is outside. They did some photography on site and built the model, and they used the actual site to design the project and the actual program. And this team actually also used a lot of sustainable features. They got into the nitty-gritty details of columns and structure on how that could conserve water and make the circulation within the building more interesting and more community, more open to community. The second team had kind of a similar approach to well building, courtyards, connection to the outside. They used a lot of bridges to connect several parts of the building, and kind of did a garden concept where there are pops of green areas within the building in the circulation, and while when you want to transition from one building to another, there's transparency, there's views to the outside. While not being outside, you're open to the outside, and there's a pond on site, so both the teams wanted to conserve it and use it as part of landscape and part of the building, and how the students can use that existing pond and the trees as part of their the nature trail. And there's another view of their building. They went, in the final presentation, they went in full details and detailed out the building, the envelope, and how they would have seen this project. And some of the key takeaways, both as from the students' perspective and our perspective, we figured that they were very much about engaging with the environment, with the nature, how they could bring nature into the building and into the curriculum and day-to-day activities, including variety of spaces and experiences, how the building could serve the community, maybe by community trails and use of the open areas, and again, the health and wellness of the students and the users.
So I think it was a really fun exercise to be able to kind of think really big and then come back to our project. And so in terms of where we are with the schedule, right now we're working through schematic design, and you can see that there's a series of 4 meetings that will be happening throughout that process. We're on track to get to construction, and then the next steps. This is just showing you how schematic design is really broken down. We've already had meetings 1 and 2. 1 is where we're really looking at high level, looking at the site, looking at adjacencies and program. 2, we start to think about it in massing form. And our next step is going to be moving more into a floor plan, and then of course into more development from there. Any questions?
Can I just say one thing? It was quite an honor for our district to be chosen to partner with Texas A&M and Stantec, and thanks to Pearl and Mark for initiating that. We were very proud of the work the students did, and it really opened their eyes to some things that we may not have ever thought about. And the reality of what a 20-year-old student might want in a school versus an older person. It was very interesting. It was very well thought out by those students, and they did a great job. So thank y'all for that opportunity for our district to participate.
Thank you so much. So item number 4 is open forum. No one signed up for that. So up next is item number 5, which is closed meeting. The board will now meet in closed meeting under Texas Authority Government Code 551.074 for the purpose of personnel matter, Government Code 551.071 for attorney consultation, Government Code 551.072 for the deliberation regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Any actions as a result of the closed meeting will take place after the board reconvenes in open meeting. The current time is 7:09. Board ended its closed meeting at 8:54. John, on the agenda, item number 6 is Miss Monroe, sorry, looked it wrong. On social emotional learning report.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present some summary findings from a recent social emotional learning survey that we did with our grade 3 through 12 students. I am the director of, this is my second year as the director of advanced academics in the district, and this year I also assumed the role of director of school counseling. School counseling is my background and my passion, so I'm excited to be filling that role. This is my clicker, and All right, when we talk about social emotional learning, we're really talking about the process by which students or any person acquires and applies knowledge that is non-cognitive in nature. So we're talking about non-cognitive skills, soft skills, 21st century skills, growth mindset, whole child. Those are some terms that you may be familiar with and what we are referring to. What does the research say about instruction in social emotional learning? You have that information on the handout in front of you. Basically, the research tells us that when we instruct students in social emotional learning, we see an improvement in academic scores. We see an increase in graduation rates, not just high school graduation, but college graduation rates as well. And we see a decrease in negative outcomes. These outcomes are not limited to the time that a student is actually receiving instruction, but we see that throughout the years, longitudinal studies show us that students continue to reap the rewards of the instruction they did receive. One study went from 6 months to 18 years post-instruction received to see the outcome of that. A 2015 study said that we can realize an 11-to-1 return on our investment, the dollar-for-dollar investment in social emotional learning. We administered the survey to students in a window November 12th through December 7th. Counselors facilitated the survey administration to over 10,000 students. That's approximately 90% of our 3rd through 12th grade students. So we're really pleased with that sample size and feel confident in the data that we received from that. The next few slides are actually showing you the results of that survey. So the first one you'll see is a summary of our grade 3 through 5 survey. There was a different survey administered to 3rd through 5th grade and then another one for 6th through 12th grade. Students could also take that survey in their home language. What you'll see in the first column is a description of the topics that we measured. So we were looking at emotion regulation, grit, growth mindset, self-management, social awareness, and then sense of belonging with elementary. When we get to the secondary surveys, you'll see we also added self-efficacy to the secondary survey.
Question?
Yes, sir.
So emotional regulation. So you went into a 3rd grader and you said you asked them, how do you regulate your emotions? Explain that to me a little bit more so I can understand how you put that on a platter and serve it.
Okay, well, we actually had Panorama put that on a platter for us. And so I think that Ms. Schaffner shared with you a little bit about Panorama. That's the company that we partnered with. And they work with over 4,800 campuses nationwide and have a database of responses from over 3 million students. So again, we're confident in the comparative data that we received from them. So the questions that the students were asked, I don't have the survey in front of me, but I'd be more than happy to get those questions to you so that you can see. The questions were written in a way that the students understood what it was, and they were responding as not at all, or a little bit, or I'm not sure, or yes, or absolutely yes.
I'd like a copy of the questions.
Okay, absolutely.
5 and 6 through 12.
Yes, yeah, I can get those to you.
Okay.
So the first column that you see on the response is the description of the topic. The second column that you see is the response favorable, so how our students responded favorably to that. And then the third column is the benchmark score or the percentile ranking. So when you see in the first row or in the 30th percentile, it means that our students responded the same or better than 30% of their peers. So this comparison is to other elementary campuses. The next slide is grades 6 through 12, and the structure is exactly the same. So you have the topic description, the percent favorable in response, and then the third column is the benchmark or the percentile comparison. Where we saw differences between middle school and high school percentile ranking, that's also noted there.
Explain to the board what that percentile represents. If you want to see a high or a low percentile.
Oh, okay, you want to see a high percentile.
So the lower percentile
The lower percentile means that our students did not compare as favorably.
as the nation.
Correct. That is accurate.
So the higher percentile, the better
That is correct.
compared to the nation.
That is correct. To the database that Panorama has.
And then in the younger grades, is that because of some of the students we get are bilingual and that affects the questions or their answers or how they know because of their socioeconomic way?
So the data can really be disaggregated in a lot of different ways. The most significant differences that we saw were in responses from, if we had lower responses, they tended to be, these are generalizations, they tended to be special education students, they tended to be male students, and they tended to be free lunch students. So there was also a differentiation between reduced lunch and free lunch students. Where we saw higher scores, again in general, our GT students responded higher and females gave more favorable responses than males. Other questions before I get to the observation? Well, those were some of the observations, but in a general sense of observation, our campuses, particularly elementary and high school campuses, are doing a good job of creating an inclusive environment where students feel that they belong. Overall observation, our students have some room for growth in their social emotional learning competencies. What are we doing well? We're doing a number of things well. We are quantifying and specifying our needs, so we're starting to look at data to know exactly where can we intervene, the same as we would be doing with academic concerns. We're advocating for the appropriate use of counselor time, including removing the title of testing coordinator from our elementary campus counselors so that they can maximize their expertise in dealing with student social emotional concern. Yes, ma'am.
Says you're advocating for, does that mean, what does that mean?
We're continuing to look at what the Texas Counseling Association deems appropriate counseling responsibilities and duties, and advocating for counselors to be time to be spent specifically in those particular areas. We're prioritizing district counseling leadership by separating it from testing and accountability. So in previous years, the district counseling leadership was tied to that role, so it's separated this year. We also provide stipends to an elementary and a middle school counseling coordinator, and also to lead counselors at the high school level. We are prioritizing student mental health by providing stipends to licensed professional counselors, and they assist with providing leadership and best practice in mental health areas. And we are prioritizing inclusive and student-centered campuses. At the beginning of this school year, we had district-wide professional development in winning cultures, and that speaks directly to campus culture. And we are engaging stakeholders in critical conversation about this issue. So we're excited and energized about the future of social emotional learning in Caney ISD.
Okay, so back on 3. So our counselors, so you're basically saying we're prioritizing the district's counselor leadership by separating it from testing and accountability.
Correct.
Testing is academic, and accountability is if you're a good kid. I mean,
They're not, sorry. Testing and accountability are, I'm kind of putting them together. Testing I would see as the logistics of administering the test, and accountability is looking at those testing results and working with campuses on, yes, so testing and accountability are together.
I'll speak to the reason why I asked Christy to look into this. With the latest things going on around the nation with schools, we recognize, and I think I've shared with the board, the need to really provide those psychological services and counseling services as needed for our children. And this is one of those ways that we evaluate first where we're at, and then we develop a roadmap on how we need to improve and how we need to get better. So this was we hadn't really looked at where we're at from an emotional, psychological standpoint for our be serving our students in the mental health side on a daily basis, and that's sometimes an area that we overlook by testing and doing these other things. So that was the charge as a starting point as to what we really need to do and where we are.
Is this the first evaluation?
It is. It's the first time we really evaluate our whole school district from an emotional, psychological standpoint, and with the tools available that we have.
So based on this data, we can create the measurable goals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are in the process.
Now we determine best practice and evidence-based.
But we did need a starting point.
Correct.
We needed a baseline to start with, and that's what this gave us, to say, here's where we are. Because those percentiles, we could have been 100% in all of them and do it great, and not really need to look at this. So obviously, it shows that we have some needs that need to be looked at. So now we'll take those next steps.
Is there a margin of error in any of those assessments? I mean, how does the third grader say, know what grit is? I mean, grit's actually kind of hard to.
No, I agree with that, and so I guess on the creation of the survey, we identified those areas that we wanted to measure in our students, and the company we partnered with, Panorama, was responsible for generating that survey, and there certainly are psychometric, there's psychometric information that I can supply you with when I give the questions to you as well, because we had to get that from Panorama before we decided to go with them.
You know me, I have no questions. So next year, is the time of year affecting when you do this, like we did this before, before Thanksgiving? Is the time of year affected? We don't know, or we won't really know. I guess the question is, are we be doing the survey during the exact same time next year, or will we be doing it at a different time?
That really is. I thought we might also do a spring survey to see what the change looks like. I've asked the counselors to start doing some interventions, and we wouldn't be using this as a measure for that, but I've asked that they do a pre and post test whenever they do an intervention so that we can measure the efficacy of that. We want to make this as least disruptive to the campuses as we can, and obviously when we're taking time out to survey that many students, it's a bit of an undertaking, so we want to be respectful of what goes on in the spring as well.
So we'll be able to build from the data next year on top of this one.
Absolutely, that is the plan. Absolutely.
And then what is the end goal, to be able to go to our teachers and say, these are the areas? I mean, what do we get a couple years of data? It's going to be interacting into our educational side of it, or how counselors handle it? I mean, what's the end game?
Yes, all of those things. So we've started to look at what some best practices look like. Austin ISD is a district that we have looked at because they've been working with SEL instruction since 2011, and it is integrated into the very fabric of their district now, which is really exciting. And I suppose if you ask me what the end game would be, I would love to see social emotional learning integrated into the fabric of everything we do. A starting point is to look at the same way that we approach academic concerns and approach social emotional learning in exactly the same way.
Perfect. Look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you.
Well, before that. Okay, agenda item number 7 is reports and proposals of board members. Anybody have anything? I do. On the construction committee, I think something that we're going to try to do a better job is, I know that you guys are busy all day long, so we do monthly reports on where we are on the construction side of what we do. So I thought I'd give you guys a brief update on kind of where we're at. Again, try to give you guys as much qualified information as we can give you. As most of you know, Porter High School had the fire in the beginning of the year. Mr. Harris enjoyed that phone call in the middle of the night when he got that. And but the demo is underway and in the lab and the other areas. One of the things that came positive of this is Ken and his team found some ways that we could be better in those areas. So we've been able to adjust the way we were doing some things there and make them more practical for the students because it burned. So if we saw something we could have done better, we have made some changes in that to update that through countertops, through some cabinetry, lighting, and some other fixtures. Ms. Maribel, concerning the facility planning update, our demographic company that we hired is going to be coming in April to do a board presentation study, which will give us a lot more qualified detail concerning our single families and our multifamily projects because we're getting more multifamilies in. It's going to be some more important information. Also, instead of us taking time off, we're going to each year through Ken, we're going to be doing those each year so we can stay on top of that data better and be able to give us better qualified data as quick as we can and be able to do the best we can there. Concerning the remaining work of the 2015 bond, we had about roughly $3 million left, so we're finishing up some priority lists at Crippen, Oakley, Sorters Mill, Valley Ranch, and Ben's Branch, and that'll continue and hopefully be finished up by the end of summer of 2019. As Stantec came in, the guys are all working hard on comprehensive high school number 3, and we're also continuing to work on the Kiefer Crossing Middle School replacement. And the design development is almost complete. Site development is being discussed because they're trying to determine possibly if we can put 2 schools on the site versus just 1 by going vertical versus longer, going up to be able to utilize space because it's more and more expensive, as obviously you guys understand. It's very difficult to find a large campus anymore. So they're working, with that. Woodridge Middle School, the construction documents are at 98%. Project will go out for bid went out January 7th, and we anticipate the approval for that contract at the next board meeting in February. IBI Architects will present the report to the board in February for White Oak Middle School addition and Kiefer Crossing Middle School replacement again there. So that just gives you guys a quick little update on the construction side of it. And I gave Kim a little quote the other day, just a little bit earlier today, and so many times people want to, Mr. Harris did a wonderful job at the Porter graduation on, his speech was wonderful, and if you ever have a chance you didn't get to hear it, you need to hear it. So I had a quote that came across my desk the other day, and I thought it was a fascinating quote. It said, "Never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson, not a life sentence." So I think it's important as we work through everything that we do, and you guys represent us wonderfully. Is too many times today people want to give an excuse to fail. You don't have to be. It's not lockdown. You can be better and work through anything you can work through. So that's all I have there. Nobody has anything?
Finance committee will meet.
Oh yeah, Finance Committee will meet in February. Beth, Miss Wendy, and Craig are on that, so Craig will be giving a report in the February meeting and letting us know where we are there. So we're going to try to do a better job of letting you guys know where we're at on some of the committees that we do. So item 8 on the agenda is consideration of the consent calendar, minutes, consideration of financial reports, and consideration of personnel reports. Are there any other questions or further discussion? Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent calendar? There being no further discussion, a vote will be taken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Item number 9 is on the agenda, consideration of the board resolution authorizing the sale of the approximately 6.703 acres, more or less, located at the northwest corner of FM 1485 and Lundy, Hargrove Road to TxDOT, for the 99 Parkway project presented by Mr. Calvin.
Yes, sir. This is what we know as Casey property. So TxDOT came to us. They're taking the front 6.7 acres of that as a right-of-way to the Grand Parkway project. So we got that proposal. We discussed that back in the fall of how that would work. So their offer
documents for that trust. We're limited to what we can do with the proceeds. So that will be dictated by the will and other documents associated with that property. So this is just asking council approval to sell that right away to Texas.
Are there any other questions or discussion? Is there a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the sale of the approximately 6.703 acres more or less located in the northwest corner of FM 1485 Monday Harbor Grove Road to TxDOT? The motion has been moved and seconded. There will be no further discussion. A vote will be taken. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Thank you.
Item number 10 is consideration of superintendent's employment contract. The board has completed the superintendent's evaluation in a previous meeting. Do I hear a motion to adopt the evaluation and both extend and amend the superintendent's contract as discussed in closed session? All those in favor say aye. The contract between the superintendent and the district will be amended to reflect those changes. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 9:16.